And we're live. All right. Welcome back to the Dirty Bird Nation Report, the unofficial official podcast of Falcons Twitter. It is my first time getting that right since we've started this goddamn show. It's a fucking miracle. 2022 is about to be a show. So be prepared. I got something right 2
I was
days
about to
before
say,
2022. So it's going to be a bad year for everybody. So just be prepared. We have a special guest today back on this show, Aaron Freeman, the Aaron Freeman from Locked On Falcons. He's graciously decided to join us. Don't know why, because we ain't been doing shit this year and it's all my fault. But he is here. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for Jalen for having this happen again. How have y'all been? How is everyone's Christmas before we get into this shit? It went Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate.
I hate the holidays, so
Okay.
it was how it is. I am especially around Christmas time. I am the literal definition of the Grinch. I hate every single part of it. It's so bad for me. It's so annoying. But it was how it was. I
Okay.
guess.
Understand.
Mine was pretty good. I just found out that someone close to me just tested positive for COVID, and I'm like, oh, here we go. So, other than that, my Christmas was good. My New Year's may not be so good, but we'll see how it goes.
I have a
We'll see.
question, Aaron, about your New Year's. What wing flavor are we doing? Because that's I've been craving wings for like a month, and I need to know.
Well, I went to Zaxby's today. They got a new like buffalo garlic thing that was pretty decent. But what did I have last week? I had some mango habanero wings last week. So, keep it spicy for the new year. You know how it goes.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not gonna do none of that. I was just wondering, but the mango habanero is good at least.
True that. So we are like 3 games behind. We're gonna start with talking about the Panthers game. So that was a shit show.
That's an understatement. I don't like any. I just especially because of the fact that they won. I don't like this is gonna happen every single time that they play a team that's bad, and then they somehow decide to win, and everybody thinks, oh my god, the Falcons are so much better than this team, and I'm just like, I I don't know about all that. Like they got lucky that the Panthers coach is probably gonna be kicked out the door in like 2 weeks, and also the fact that they played 3 quarterbacks. So I I don't really have much to say about the game except the fact that they beat a team that they were somewhat better than, kinda, and Joe Brady wasn't at fault.
Yeah, I mean, as far as honestly, I don't really remember the Panthers game. I got like a 2 week memory for the Falcons, and
That's
basically
completely fair.
I had to process so much stuff that I just had to push stuff to the side. So, um, I remember they ran the ball well. They got pressure on the quarterback for once this year because they were throwing a lot of blitzes out there. They got some turnovers. That was good. Uh, that was the Michael Walker pick six game, right?
Yes,
Okay. All right. Yeah.
because
So
Cam is his favorite quarterback and all that jazz.
yeah. So like they did some good stuff in that game. They did some things that at least his coaching staff wants to do. They want to run the football. They want to be opportunistic on defense. So they check those boxes against Carolina.
You just said that, and I just reminded me of the whole like Mike Smith thing, and I don't know how I feel about that. The whole opportunistic on defense part. Like, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Especially because I didn't really. It didn't turn out too well for his 5 year tenure.
Yeah. Yeah. They had it going that 1 year in 2012. That was about it.
Literally, that was the only year that I could recall them being somewhat fun to watch. I'm not gonna lie.
It was because mostly it was Asante and the offense was cooking.
It was
That's
Pick
the
Six
one year.
Sante and John Abraham.
That's the 1 year that Dirk Cutter we were all fans of Dirk Cutter the one time.
That one time.
What up, Damsky?
I love you. But yeah, that game was a shit show. And we got Cam benched. That was surprising.
Yeah, they're
Was
going
it
back to
us?
Darnold this week.
Oh gosh.
No, brother. I'm
You
glad we don't
just
got. I'm glad I don't ever. I'm not a Panthers fan. Or I don't ever have to watch them unless they're playing the Falcons because like
Mm-hmm.
that team is going. I think the Falcons are being run poorly right now, but the Panthers are in a whole nother league. They're winning the Super Bowl with that shit. Like it's bad. What they got going on over there is bad. Like bad. I'm not a fan. Can't do it.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. They got to get their quarterback situation settled, and I don't know if they are because they've completely screwed that so many times over the last 2 years. So we'll see how it happens.
They went from Cam to Sam Darnold to Kyle Allen to Sam Darnold to Cam to Sam Darnold to PJ Walker to Sam Darnold.
You forgot about Teddy. Teddy was in there.
Oh my god, I
oh
forgot
yeah.
that year was so like he beat them. He beat the Falcons twice. So I probably should have remembered that. But yeah, oh my god. Mm, I don't know what I guess people say like doubting quarterbacks is like really hard or whatever, but sometimes it's really easy to tell if a quarterback has it, and a lot of the times they just like don't have it. I don't know what they're doing over there. I'm glad they're a division rival. I can't be glad that they're a division rival because they suck, and I kind of need the Falcons to lose for the next like 2 years. But to each their own.
Not the next 2 years. Speaking of losing, we lost to the 49ers, which infuriates my soul because you know it's fuck Kyle Shanahan over here on this side of the podcast. On that side of the podcast, it's not fuck Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
So, you know, whatever. Just go ahead and talk about this because I don't want to talk about this game, Jalen.
Everybody was always everybody every time the 49ers lose, they're always like, "Oh, fuck Kyle Shanahan shit," or "Kyle Shanahan is overrated coach," and I'm just like, "Yeah, all right, we'll see." And going into that game, like everybody expected them. No, people were. I think I saw a bunch of people were like, "I don't know, Kyle Shanahan's kind of overrated. He kind of sucks. We might actually be able to win this game and make the playoffs." And I was like, "Yeah, they're gonna get blown the fuck out." And everybody was like, "Oh no, they're gonna be real competitive in this game." I was like, "Nah." Like Kyle Shanahan did exactly what he usually does. He schemed up all these random wide receivers that people don't really know about. Like I know about them obviously for like draft stuff, but that people don't really know about. And they were dropping 80 yards on us on the Falcons' elite Dean Pease defense that everybody keeps saying. And then like if it wasn't for Jimmy Garoppolo, they might have put up 60. I'm not kidding. Like
Yeah, it was tough. It was a tough watch. For those of us that don't actively root for the Falcons to lose, it was a tough watch. They looked rough. They gave up a bunch of big plays. They ran the ball on us. The Falcons really didn't do much on offense. It was Caleb McGarry Island got completely hit by a tsunami named Nick Bosa. It was a tough day for me personally in the brand. So yeah, man, it was tough.
yeah, you as a sole member, I have like I have like a vacation home over there sometimes. I don't think he's awful, but I
It's
don't think
trash. It's a
he's
trash
good.
island, but it's not as trash as other islands. That's all I say.
Only thing you got on that island is a palm tree and a coconut that spawns every 2 weeks. Because that's the only time he plays well. That is all you have over there. And, I got a getaway shack over there. I bring my own wood because I can't really build anything with the tools that I have over there. Just like Caleb McGarry can't block well with the tools that he has given.
Look,
But
he's gonna make Atlanta great again. That's I don't know.
Matt Gary for sure. Like that is literally the only thing. Like if he gets, I don't expect him to be here for too much longer. But if he does, that's the only thing that I will miss is saying Matt Gary. Like that's it.
That
Like
guy.
Uh, I was one of those people like first year, like let him grow into it. He's playing a new whole thing. He's not really that good, and then he stayed the same. And I was just like, yeah, well, give him some time. New coordinator, and then this is what his third year, and I'm just like, yeah, maybe they have to move on from him.
Yeah. It's like, is he getting worse? Like, or is that just how he's always been? And we're just now seeing it? Or is he just getting worse?
I think he's just plateauing. I don't know if he's like he's better than he was his rookie year. I would think, even if it's marginally. I think Aaron can watch him. Well, I don't really be watching McGarry. Like, I don't watch O linemen when they're like in the game, unless like somebody's making a mistake. I don't really care too much. Like if they're in the league, like there's nothing else for me to watch until like it's time for contracts. But I think he's more plateauing than he is like getting worse. But when his plateauing isn't like good, that's kind of a problem. If you go from bad to okay and you don't go better than okay, then you're going to be seen as bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's better than he was as a rookie. He's gotten better, but there's still these just awful games and awful, like, even in his good games, like he's always going to give up like one awful play where he's just going to get absolutely obliterated. And because no one watches the offensive line, as Jalen just pointed out, like that's the only thing you see. So you're like, he's terrible. And like he's fine the rest of the it's kind of like Robert Alford, where Robert Alford would get that one
He'll
horrible
get like,
DPI, and you'd be
Yeah.
like, this dude is trash. Like, what is he doing? That would give up a touchdown or whatever. And then like the rest of the game, he would lock down his side of the field. But like that one play is the one that sticks out in your mind. Like, obviously, I don't think Caleb McGarry's on Robert Alford's level as a player,
oh
but
no,
like like even in his allegedly bad games, he's not as bad as people think he is. Like that Patriots game, like he got whooped by Matt Judon on a couple of plays, but like outside of like two plays, he was fine in that game. But those two plays that he got whooped on were like horrible.
Yeah.
people don't, and it's also just goes to like fans and even some analysts. I know Dansky's in here. He doesn't really understand O line play. It's hard. Playing O line is super hard. It's hard because like one thing can go wrong and it couldn't even be your fault and it'll end up looking like your fault. But like it's hard. But like he's getting paid millions of dollars. You should be able to clear up some of the things that are in his control. Like
Yeah, I mean it's like playing a cornerback, right? Like your job is to get beat, right? Basically, and your job is essentially to not get beat as much as you
you should,
should,
yes.
But it's like you're always fighting an uphill battle. Like you'll never win that. Even AJ Terrell gets beat from time to time. It's not often, but like it happens. And like when it happens, like that's all people see, because like you don't see the one, you see the one time where the guy screws up. You don't see the other 50 times where the guy does his job. So it sucks playing those jobs, but you do get paid a lot of money, so can't really complain.
So O line is so like hard to find in the draft, especially like now, like after like just getting out of like high school. So it's hard to find people who want to play O line like coming up because that shit is hard. And you don't get no praise for that. You don't get any like flashy stats. You don't get anything. Only time anybody ever says your name is if you're giving up a bad play.
Mm-hmm.
That
Damn.
is what it is. It's just hard. Still, Caleb McGarry is very on the short list of people that I think should either be gone or moved in a very near future.
He's not good, but I don't think he's as terrible as other people on the offensive line.
Yeah. Mm.
He's
Nah.
less terrible than some
Yeah.
other guys.
Yeah. Now I was watching. I think you were on Damsky's in them show, like the Falcons or whatever like that. When you were talking about how the Jalen Mayfield thing with Caleb McGarry, how you kind of have to be hard on both of them if you're going to be hard on one of them because they're basically in the same boat. And that
Yeah.
goes also to what I was saying. I don't know if you were in here, like I don't know, like 4 weeks ago or something like that. Where I was like, it's probably about time where we stop trying to build like an offensive line or a position group for Matt Ryan, right? Would you like agree or disagree with that? Like at this point, you've tried every year. he's definitely on the downswing of his career. You tried every year to build something for him specifically, and it's just not working. Like at this point, you shouldn't be trying to like make drastic decisions to appease Matt Ryan, in my opinion.
I hear you. I don't really disagree with you. I would argue, as I like to do, that they
How
probably
dare you?
really haven't really built an offensive line for Matt Ryan because they completely ignore the interior offensive line. And when
That
they
is true.
do not ignore the interior offensive line, they make
Exactly.
terrible decisions along the offensive line. So, you know, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, I'm like, what would happen if they actually made good decisions with their interior offensive line by not drafting Jalen Mayfield, by not signing Jamon Brown and James Carpenter and all those guys and wasting money and draft picks on guys that aren't good and letting, our boy Wes Schweitzer walk when they had no reason to do that and all that stuff. So I don't know. It's
You just reminded me of a dark time. I'm so mad.
Right. Like he
I was
really
like one of
does.
the I was one of the few people on Falcons Twitter that was constantly like, Wes Schweitzer's actually good. Please just play him. And then he went to Washington and was damn near a Pro Bowler. Don't remind me.
He
But
brought
yeah,
up
you're
the
right.
whole
You're right.
past.
Oh man,
Ugh,
that just infuriated me.
just hurt my feelings. Just
Oh
bringing up the
man.
past. All these people.
Oh,
Gracious. I miss Poe.
Don Terry.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know if
do.
I'm. I don't know if I missed it. He was better than people. People were saying he was ass, and I was like, I don't know where that came from, but
He's better than the people
wasn't
we
Josh
got
one of
right
those people
now.
that was like,
yes,
oh, sucks.
yes. You're paying him like $3 million, even though he was on like a 1 year, like $6 million contract because he was like hurt. He's like, you're paying him all this money. He can't even get you this, this, and this. I'm like, bro, he's playing very good football. I don't know what you're talking about.
He's the only reason we ever had a good red zone defense because basically he would clog the middle. And like every time now or before, when the Falcons defense is in the red zone, they just pound the ball down our throat because they're the softest team up the middle. And it sucks. And then like the Falcons did the one smart thing with Poe that no one else did, which is basically tied his money to his weight. And they got the best version of him. And then the minute he left Atlanta and went to Carolina or wherever, he just got fat and sucked. And then he went to Dallas. It was fat and sucked. And it was like, and not to bring this up, but like I look at Jordan Davis and I'm like, are we gonna like put clauses in his contract that make sure he doesn't get fat or whatever the case may be? Because like, I mean, like he's really good at whatever he is, like 360 or whatever ridiculous
Yeah, they
size
say
he
he's
is.
at 340, but he's 100% like 355 to 370. Like
So I'm
it's not even
like if we
close.
can keep him under 340, I'm good with Jordan Davis. But like if you're gonna sign that or you're gonna draft that dude and you're just gonna be like, hey man, have all the lemon pepper wings you can get or whatever the case may be. I'm like, that's probably not gonna work out in the long term.
Only thing, like this is gonna be me being the Georgia fan or whatever, but I
Go ahead.
obviously this is I have the same reservation everybody else does with Jordan Davis, like as a pass rusher, etc. But I don't think him like managing his weight or anything would be a problem, like at all.
Okay. Okay.
Just because like he's a really good kid, like really really good kid, and they've asked him to cut weight and like gain weight before, and he's done it like in 3 weeks. So like I don't think that'll be a problem.
Okay.
He'll do whatever people need, but again, that doesn't change the fact of his other reservations. Like obviously, he's probably going to go back half of the first round, which is fine. But that's the one Georgia standing that I'll do this show.
Okay. I'm sure I might be able to get more out of you. Look, as a fat man myself who has trouble maintaining his weight, I probably come off hypocritical talking about other dudes being fat, but like, when you play in the NFL, man, like, come on, man, you get paid $1 million, like, keep it under control. Like, you got all these training programs or whatever the case may be. So like when you got Eddie Lacy's or whatever the case may be, like, what are you doing, man? Like,
Mr. China food himself.
I'm gonna make fun of fat guys in the NFL because there's no reason for you to
They
be
have no excuse. Absolutely.
overweight in the NFL.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Marcus.
Marcus with the message. Speaking of the past, real quick, I'm gonna go off topic.
No, no.
So Kyle Pitts, right? I'm trying to understand how little DeMarco, remember him?
The GOAT, Patrick
The
DeMarco.
fullback, little DeMarco.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out how he could block, right? But 6 foot something, 200 something pound, number 4 overall tight end getting paid X amount of millions of dollars cannot block. Can one of y'all help me understand?
It's because Kyle Pitts is basically built like a toothpick.
He's a wide receiver.
He's
Don't he
basically
lift weights?
Yeah, but like he's a wide receiver. That's gonna be my excuse at this point. They're gonna play him as a wide receiver because he can't do the tight end stuff like the
Cause I
tight end
mean,
stuff. But
I mean, he could get there. He just needs to get. He needs to bulk up. He needs to eat some lemon pepper wings. He needs to be
he needs
Wing
that
Wednesday
magic
every.
city.
Dropping like 25 wings every wing Wednesday, and he'll be good. He'll be good.
okay, so wings. We need to start a petition.
We don't need to start no petition for no NFL player. They got it.
A petition for this man to bulk up because ain't no reason he should be getting paid all this money and can't block a fly.
Like I said, I'm treating him as a wide receiver until then because that's what they're treating him as.
Yeah.
So like, exactly. That's why when people when people were mad at me over the whole cycle about the whole tight end label thing, because I said he was a tight end, and people were like, he's not a tight end, he's a wide receiver, H back, fullback, wide receiver, Z X A B C D. I was like, okay, all right. He's gonna play one position primarily for most of his career, and they're just gonna label him a tight end because that's where he was drafted at. But if you see his usage that he is right now, he is a wide receiver. Like
Pretty much.
that's fine. It's completely fine. Like you just can't have tight end expectations for a wide receiver.
Fair enough.
Like it's good for contract negotiation and the whole record thing with the whole Mike Ditka thing because I'm pretty sure he'll break that, hopefully. But like they're using him as a wide receiver. He's playing as a wide receiver. He can't do the tight end stuff like a wide receiver can. He can do the wide receiver stuff really well, super well. But he's a wide receiver at this point, and that's fine. It's completely fine.
Fine. Okay. Fine.
So basically, don't think of him as a tight end. Think of him as a wide receiver, and you'll have a better grasp of it. Because if you start talking about the whole tight end thing, then he'll never be. Travis Kelce isn't a good blocker. He's serviceable, but none of them are like George Kittle or some shit. So it is what it is.
I guess. Okay. Think of him as a wide receiver. I'm gonna have to ingrain that in my head. So, how did we win the Lions game? Because I swore in the fourth quarter that game was over.
They had a plumber playing quarterback.
Pretty much it.
That is the one answer you need because
they got outplayed. The Falcons.
They got bodied. It wasn't even close. I turned the game on the first couple drives. I was like, oh, the Falcons are about to get their ass beat, and then I went to travel to my grandma's house for a little bit, and I was just watching people talk about the game, and I was like, oh, they're about to lose, and then I said, oh, 4-8 pick six. I said, God fucking damn
it. They if the Lions didn't have, as Jalen put it, a plumber at their quarterback position, they would have probably converted in the red zone because I think they went 0 for 4 or something in this game. And then obviously they threw that pick at the end. Basically, Foye picked it off at the 1 yard line. So they literally were 1 yard away from winning the game. So like it's the Falcons where it's like, even against bad teams, they're gonna play down. So it's
I
crazy.
Would we
swore.
say they're playing down, or are they playing to their level? Because
I, that's a good
You,
question.
you want to get into that conversation?
yes, because I'm just playing devil advocate here because I completely agreed with you because I was listening to the Locked On Falcons podcast that you can find on all your streaming services like Spotify and Apple Music and all the such like
The
that.
link is
But
below.
I was listening to that and I was like, yeah, I agree with what Aaron's saying, but we have some other people who were a little bit against that, so we could get into that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say the same thing as I said on Locked On Falcons many times over the last month or two. Look, the talent level on the Falcons defense is bad, right? They just do not have enough talent on their D line in the secondary to really be a high level team, particularly, and that will get exposed this weekend against Buffalo. Buffalo will basically just do whatever they want to do against them, and that's fine. And that's why I don't give DMP's too hard a job because a harder time because he's doing the best he can with what he's got. We can certainly nitpick some things that he does from time to time. I have done that, but for the most part, he's doing whatever he can to deal with that. On the offensive side of the ball, like I'm not going to sit here and say that this is a world class top 5 type of offense, but it should be like I don't know, like the 20th best offense. What are they like?
They're like
32nd?
27. They're like 28th. Like
They're
they're
like
one
a
of the
bottom
worst
5
offenses in the
offense. You
league.
can't convince me with Matt Ryan, with Cordero Patterson, who's basically one of the most productive receiving running backs we've had in the last 5 years, out producing what Alvin Kamara was doing in New Orleans and Christian McCaffrey in Carolina as a pass catcher. You got Kyle Pitts, who's having a historic rookie season. Russell Gage suddenly is looking like a halfway decent wide receiver. He's been very productive the last 6 weeks or whatever the case may be. You got Jake Matthews, one of the best pass protecting left tackles in the league. Chris Lindstrom, one of the best guards in the NFL. And look, we know that other offensive linemen aren't good, but they're not like people act like they're like, oh, these guys are like high school guys. Like, no, like they could start on other teams in the NFL. People act like, oh, all these playoff teams have like superstars on their offense. Like, no, they don't. Look at Cincinnati's offensive line,
I know one player on their entire
Kansas
offensive
City's
line.
offensive line is not good. I know they added some pieces this year, but for years, those offenses were cooking with bad offensive lines for many years. So the offensive line, while it is holding back this offense, no doubt about it, it's not as if it's impossible to have success with the talent level that they have. And so when people sit here and oh, they don't have enough talent, I'm like, yeah, they don't have enough talent to beat San Francisco. They don't have enough talent to beat Buffalo, but they can at least make it competitive for a half or something like that. Getting blown out 43-3 against Dallas. No one's sitting here saying that they should have dropped a 50 burger on Dallas's defense, but you got to be able to get 17 points, man. That's baseline competency in the NFL. The Lions are getting close to 17 points with Tim Boyle. I know nobody watching the show knows who Tim Boyle. Never even heard of Tim Boyle until they watched the game on Sunday. Who the hell is? I didn't know about Tim Boyle until
I
2
didn't
years.
know who the fuck
And
he
I
was.
found out he was in the league for 3 years, and I'm like, who is this dude that's the backup to Aaron Rodgers? Tim Boyle? Who is this dude? And he was trash. And I'm sitting here look, the Falcons offense ain't no top 5 unit, but there ain't no reason for them to be a bottom 5 unit either. They have way more talent than that. And so that's why I push back so much to the talent narrative because, I think Falcon fans overrate talent way too much when it comes to offense. They were doing it in 2017 after the infamous Kyle Shanahan debacle. And they were like, oh, well, Sark's going to come in because he's got just as much talent and he's got the same playbook, so there's going to be no regression. And then the Falcons had historic regression that year, and that should have told you right then and there that talent doesn't mean jack, or I'm not going to say it doesn't mean jack, but it's not the most important part of offensive success. It's coaching. Now, then the problem you have with Falcon fans is that they think coaching is everything when it comes to defense, and it's the complete opposite. It's all about talent. Every year for the last 4 years, they've been like, oh, this new defensive coordinator is going to fix our defense. Marquand Manuel in 2018, he's going to have a top 10 defense. And nope. And then, oh, Dan Quinn, he knows his defense better than anybody. They're going to have a top 10 defense. Nope. And then it's like, oh, Raheem Morris, he fixed the defense. He's going to fix it. They're going to have a top 10 defense. And they were like 16th or 17th or whatever. And it's like, hey, Raheem did a heck of a job getting that unit with that talent level to 16. And then it's like, oh, Dean Pease, he's been in the league for 40 years. He knows everything about defense. He's forgotten more about defense than anything. And it's like, that's true, but it doesn't mean jack if you don't have the dudes that can play on the defensive side of the ball. So Falcon fans have had it back reversed for years and years. They think it's all about talent on offense and it's not. It's about coaching. And they think it's all about coaching on defense and it's not. It's really about talent. So just flip it on that. And if you do that, you'll be straight.
Yeah, this is why I've always had like those reservations with Arthur Smith, because I'm like, I know Breathe and I don't know. I think Eric was in here when I had like the big rant about it. And I was just like, they shouldn't be as bad as they are. You could say like the O-line is awful too, but the O-line in most places is awful. Like sure, you can do that, but if your wide receivers are small, they're in the league for a reason. They all specialize in doing something. So why are we not?
Chiefs got small receivers. No one complains about their size for those guys, right?
Yeah, because Andy Reid is 36 times better than Arthur Smith as a coordinator, which is what I'm saying. And I'm just like if you're a good offensive coach, which is really what you need in order for offense to flourish, like you could have obviously it's quarterback first, and then but if you have offensive coordinator, you can make something shake with a lot of players. Like there is no reason why they should be looking as bad as they do. Like I was like, bro, if we can't find a way to get Russell Gage the ball, because I was listening to one of your shows, I was like, Russell Gage had like 200 yards at that point, like 6 weeks into the season. Obviously, he was hurt for a little bit of it, but I was just like, they're not using him at all, like how any other coach would. I was like, we all synonymously say Dirk Cutter is a pretty bad or average offensive coordinator. I could not stand watching him like coordinate football, especially after watching Shanahan. That's probably where I'm like spoiled at. But like, stop it. I see you over there. Stop it. But like, they went from Russell Gage being like catching 5 or 6 balls a game, catching 2, because they're just doing like dumb shit, and they're not like giving him chances to be what he is. Like they're trying to pigeonhole him, or they're trying to pigeonhole random like players. And like I understand you can say the talent and everything, but they have chances to get talent that fits what they're trying to do if that's what they're going to do. They just haven't done it. They were consistently talking about, like, I've always been asking, they probably activated him, I think last week, right? And he caught a pass. I was like, why isn't Marvin Hall playing?
Oh yeah.
Like at all. Well, why is he on the practice squad? Why is he not playing? Why is he doing nothing? When everybody's saying, oh, we should probably do the deep threat. We should probably do something to open up the field. They did it one time, and that was like their biggest play all season. It's just like the situation. I don't understand it. Like, Arthur Smith's gonna have to come and see me. I don't know. It's bad.
Not come and see you. You gonna catch him in these streets?
Look, if I catch him in the streets, I'm gonna be the last thing he sees.
Sound like Myles Garrett.
Me and Myles Garrett about the same size. We're both 6'5", around 280.
God damn.
Ooh. Jesus.
Damn.
Did we talk about Dion Jones yet?
No.
Not yet. We were just not talking about offense.
Okay. Well, on offense, real quick. I don't know if you talked about Kyle Pitts any at all yet.
That he can't block, yeah.
That's the only thing we said about it.
He wasn't really. I guess he wasn't bright here for that. But so in our group chat, this is South Breeze. I was running late. The Omarion Marion is canceling flights and making people late that I have to pick up. But it is what it is. So in the group chat, me and Jalen and Jeff, I'm trying to reframe how I view Kyle Pitts, because I do not want to continue to be branded as the Falcons hater, the Bears fan, the Justin Fields fan, all that good stuff.
I'll do it.
But, okay, well, somebody's got to do it. But I'm trying to reframe my own inner narrative. I'm not trying to see out confirmation bias, like, okay, cool, this is the pick we made, this is what we did. But in my head, as I look at past other players that have been productive players at tight end, I'm just trying to figure out where the value is drafting him at 4, when, of course, I know we have other issues. But moving forward, since we have him on this team, I don't like how many offenses truly run their offense through their tight end. Is there many? Few? Chiefs, maybe.
Even
Raiders.
then, the Raiders with
Okay.
Darren Waller.
Darren Waller. Okay. Okay.
That's
Looks.
pretty much it.
I
Everybody.
mean,
Yeah,
Okay.
it's hard to like think about Ravens maybe, but even then they
you
have
can't even
Lamar.
really say the Chiefs and the Raiders because
Exactly,
it's
because
really Kelsey and Hill are a 1-2 punch, and now with the Raiders, it's it was Ruggs before he wound up being a knucklehead, but now it's Hunter Renfro that's basically the 1-2 punch there. So
Okay. So doing my little bit of research on YouTube, when you bring up Darren Waller, like Darren Waller was like what, a 6th-round draft pick, correct?
something like that, yeah.
Okay. And I asked Jalen, hey, who is the gold standard for tight end right now as of today, excluding Kyle Pitt? I was going to say Travis Kelce. He said Greg Kittle. I'm like, all right, cool. I started looking up stuff from Kittle. Kittle was what, a 5th-round pick, correct?
Something like that, yeah.
All right, cool. So the guy that's consistently putting up, big numbers at tight end would be Travis Kelce, right? Great quarterback, a lot of other weapons around him, which again, Kyle Pitts does not have at this time. Per Falcons Twitter, we don't have the talent level or whatever, but Travis Kelce was a third round?
third round.
Okay. So moving forward, and me and Jalen will go back and forth with this. Whenever things get right in Atlanta, whenever Arthur Smith gets his guys on the team, what do we have to get out of Kyle Pitts to justify him at number 4? Now, I'm not a big numbers guy to an extent because numbers don't tell the whole story all the time. We obviously had the thing with Julio Jones in Atlanta where he would get a bunch of yards and not a bunch of touchdowns, which, it is what it is. He was the offense essentially. But what do we need to get from him moving forward to be that guy that everybody has already proclaimed to have a gold jacket on? Like, again, he's about to break the records for, Mike Ditka. He's broken Jeremy Shockey's record. He's going to be the most historic tight end in NFL history for this team. But like Aaron said in his podcast, Locked On Falcons, the consistency is not there, right? Which is understandable as a young tight end, having learned multiple positions. He plays tight end, he plays a slot, he plays out wide. That's understandable. He's still about to amass 1,000 yards. My thing that my big point with this whole thing is that Falcons Twitter kind of overlooks is, for me personally, kind of like with Julio Jones, I would rather have impact over numbers, right? Because like anybody can compile stats. Not saying that's what Kyle Pitts is doing, but outside of last week, in my head, essentially he made the Pro Bowl off of 2 games, off of 2 teams that essentially will be picking in the top 5 at that time, right?
That
the
is
Dolphins.
A fair assessment. That is a fair assessment. Yeah, like 176 one game and then like 160 the next one.
And then against a lesser talented team, again, the team is going to have the first pick in the NFL draft, the Jaguars, he's essentially a ghost. Which, again, he can't throw himself the ball, he can't keep himself open, but for the number 4 guy, like, I feel like there's something you have to do. Like, he's 6'6". You have to find a way to get him the ball in some way, shape, form, or fashion. You shouldn't be in a game and become a ghost. I know it happens, but in my head, it shouldn't. Correct me if I'm wrong. Guide me to the light. Show me the way. I'm trying to.
That's exactly why I asked that question that people went up in a tizzy about. I was like, it was literally basically about that same question about Kyle Pitts. I was like, one of 3 things is happening right here. Either Arthur Smith sucks, Matt Ryan is washed, or Kyle Pitts is a bust. I didn't say which one of those I believed in, because at the time I was like, I just want to see where people's heads are at. Obviously, everybody was just like, oh, fire upon Jalen. And then I got blocked and reported and shit for that. And I was just like, cool. But like, I asked that question for a reason. Like, I think he's had a phenomenal rookie year.
Yeah.
He's done very well. Only other person like wide receiver wise, I would think who's been better than him is Jamar Chase. And he's getting wide receiver 1 snaps and actual targets. But like, most people in the draft were consistently saying Kyle Pitts is, I wouldn't say leagues better than Jamar Chase. They had questions about Jamar Chase. Everybody was like, yeah, this guy is just simply better than Jamar Chase, which is cool. Like, good. if that's where you believe, then you drafted the better person. But he's not putting up the numbers that Jamar Chase is either. So one of those things is happening, and I don't know which one it is. Like, is Matt Ryan not looking his way to give him the ball? Is Arthur Smith not giving him enough chances to get the ball? Or, like, is he just not playing well enough? Obviously, my answer is obviously Arthur Smith is terrible.
I mean, it's not number 3. It's not Kyle Pitts is a bust.
Yeah,
right. Like
obviously.
we can.
That was literally that was the one
nitpick
option in there that I was just like, that's not it.
We can nitpick some Kyle Pitts stuff. You know, we could talk about his blocking. We can talk maybe a little bit about kind of being a little lazy on some routes and whatnot. You know, where he kind of is out there jogging and stuff. We can nitpick that stuff, but I think really with Kyle Pitts, like most of my complaints aren't a Kyle Pitts issue. It's that surround Kyle Pitts. It's more of a Matt Ryan issue because it's more Matt Ryan wanting Kyle Pitts to be Julio Jones and basically locking on him as a receiver and just like, you know, as good as Kyle Pitts is, he's not Julio Jones. Like that's at least, you know, in the future he may be on that level, but he's not there yet. And so that kind of holds back the offense because Matt Ryan is going through the same sort of first year jitters with a new play caller that he's gone through the last couple of times the Falcons have changed coaches. And before he always had Julio Jones to be that go-to guy in those situations where Arthur Smith or whoever would call it a play. And Matt Ryan's like, I don't know what this play is asking me to do. So I'm just going to throw the ball to Julio Jones. And we saw that a lot in 2015, and that led to a lot of interceptions that year because Matt Ryan was just basically throwing to Julio in triple coverage every time he got the chance, and he was like, screw it, I don't care. And it didn't hurt him that much in 2017 and 2019, and now it's kind of hurt him this year because like Kyle Pitts isn't that dude. So I think when we talk about Kyle Pitts and like why isn't he putting up numbers, like I did a breakdown of this on Locked On Falcons on tonight, and so if you're listening to the show on Friday, you'll hear me talk about it. But the Falcons are kind of utilizing Kyle Pitts more like AJ Brown than a real tight end because they don't throw a lot of the sort of short stuff that you traditionally get from guys like Waller and Kelsey. And even if you go back to what Hayden Hurst was last year and Austin Hooper was in previous years, where a lot of what those guys do is like get those little like 6 to 8 yard hitch routes and whatnot. And you see some of that with Kyle Pitts, but you don't see a lot of that. So like when you have these games where he has like 4 catches for like 50 yards or whatever it is, and it feels like, well, that's a good game by NFL standards, but it feels like Kyle Pitts is capable of doing more than that. A lot of that feels like some of it's owed to the fact that they're not doing a whole lot of that sort of short dink and dunk stuff just to kind of get him numbers and use him to move the chains. And most of that stuff is going to Russell Gage more often than not than it is to Kyle Pitts. And then I think the other issue is like the Falcons have been kind of terrible at how they utilize him in the red zone. And I think any questions about Kyle Pitts's play, if he had like 8 touchdowns right now, I don't think anybody would be talking bad about his play. But the fact that he has only 1 touchdown, and the reason why he only has 1 touchdown is basically because Arthur Smith doesn't design anything for him in the red zone. It's just always just like lob plays or whatever. And it's just like run and Matt Ryan will throw you the ball. And that's like the worst thing. Matt Ryan's terrible at like fades and whatnot. He's always been terrible at fades.
Julio. So it's like, why would that work now?
Yeah. So it's like, I feel like most of the issues with Kyle Pitts are issues that can get resolved if other people do their jobs. And I think it's mostly Arthur Smith. I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, it's Arthur Smith's fault, but it is one of those things where like I feel like most of the issue rests with Arthur Smith. And if he starts doing different things with Kyle Pitts, you'll see a lot of these issues go away.
So I guess with that being said, I'm not going to say that he's on a short leash, but I feel like the fans do influence kind of unfortunately, like the front office with, you know, their expectations. Of course, like with Kyle Pitts, they formed this narrative that he should have been this, you know, 10 touchdown, 1,000-yard guy, which he's going to get 1,000 yards, but he's lacking the touchdown department. If Arthur Smith doesn't kind of correct these issues kind of sooner than later. Like, I think part of the issue again is like a little bit with Matt Ryan, but that's tied to the line play, right? We already know the line play hasn't been optimal this year. Hopefully we can get that fixed sooner or later. But again, Matt Ryan's not getting any older. So just kind of based on like looking at some of Kyle Pitts highlights in college, again, I know college is a different playing field from the NFL, but it looked like even though Trash isn't a great quarterback at the pro level, but at the college level, he did seem to push the ball down to Kyle Pitts downfield a little bit more than Matt Ryan, which I understand we have limitations with the line, but if that were to get corrected, year 2 of Kyle Pitts, I think possibly this could look a little bit different than it does this year, hopefully, if we can correct those things. But with all the holes we have in the team, that's kind of asking for a lot. It's kind of like, hey, man, by the time we actually get this rolling where it needs to be, Matt Ryan may or may not be here. And then we're kind of, unless we hit on a, good prospect quarterback, we're going to be kind of spinning our wheels for a little while. So that's just kind of my fear, again, with the fans' expectations, saying like, oh, this team is overperformed with Arthur Smith with this bottom 3 talent in the NFL, and he needs his guys. All these narratives that shift every week, every game.
Coach of the year, Arthur Smith. Yeah,
it's just it makes my head hurt. I'm just trying to look at what is reality for this team, what is the truth for this team in the future, and it's kind of like it could be tough sledding. That's just the expectations I have going forward, unless we really hit in free agency and really hit in the draft and really improve coaching, which is asking for a lot for any team, but particularly this team, we need those things to happen to kind of make things look right. So
I feel you on that.
Obviously, the Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot regime came into like a pretty poor situation, so it wasn't always going to be easy, or it wasn't going to look nice in year 1. But I expected better from Arthur Smith. Like, Terry GM can only do so much. Like, he's on my shit list anyway for not doing what he should have done. But I can't blame him for that. I can't blame him too much for that, because he probably has people above his head that probably told him not to do it. But still,
yeah, that's my future prediction for the fan base, is to start blaming Arthur Blank here soon.
It's already started.
I've seen a lot of it.
It's already started.
It's not as heavy as is for the other guys, but it shifted from
and I remember, I think it was last season after the Cowboys game, or Mark was on the show, and he was like, Arthur Blank is a terrible owner. And I was like, Arthur Blank does literally nothing, has anything to do with the Falcons. He appoints people because he doesn't know what he's doing. So he's doing the right thing. He appoints people to tell him what is going on, and then they do dumb shit. So
yeah, I mean, he took a break from the team after he got cancer, because it was like I guess a lot of work, too much stress or whatever. So like he basically just shows up on Sunday in his $10,000 suits or whatever the case may be, and that's all he does.
Mob boss trench coat,
the gray suit with the red tie,
his mob boss trench coat.
Yeah.
He knows what's up.
I mean, like I hear you, Breeze, man, because it's gonna be tough, because I think what Jalen said, the situation here was not an ideal situation, and like that's part of the reason why I give Arthur Smith so much crap, because it's like him just being kind of good is not going to be good enough to get the Falcons out of this situation. He's got to be great.
Yes.
And so like next year you have to see, and I know Lethal hates saying this, but like he's got to have a Kyle Shanahan like transformation, and this offense has to be like top 10, and you got to get Kyle Pitts to be everything in the red zone threat. You got to get Calvin Ridley back and looking like the top 5, top 10 wide receiver. And I know that's a controversial take on this show, because you guys are very prominent Ridley truthers. But like the player that he was at the end of 2020 when he was cooking teams, you need to get him back to do that. You need to get Matt Ryan looking like, what everybody was hyping him up to be, like, oh, he's going to be even better than Ryan Tannehill. You need all of that to happen. And that only happens if Arthur Smith's play calling is better, if the offensive line is actually good. And then again, like, how do you take a bottom 10, bottom 5 offensive line to a top 10 offensive line in one offseason. How do you do that? Are you going to do it in the draft? Like, are you going to draft Tristan Wirfs or whatever, and that guy's going to just come in and just magically solve your offensive line? Maybe. Are you going to use free agent money? Like, it's not like the Falcons have a ton of money to spend. They got more money to spend this offseason than they'll have last offseason, but it's not as if they can go like, paying everybody or whatever. So it's going to be a tough situation. And so, like, it's possible that they could pull it off, but sitting here today, it's hard to see it going right. And then if that's the case and they have that big regression that I'm expecting, and I know a lot of other people are expecting next year when they have a much harder schedule and they, wind up being 5-12 or whatever, and they're picking like 8th overall in the 2023 draft, and everybody's going to be sitting here being like, hey, maybe they should take a quarterback. And then it's going to be like, yeah, you kind of have to take a quarterback. I mean, like you did the thing that the Chargers did where they passed on the quarterback so they could roll with Phillip Rivers. You passed on Mahomes, you passed on Watson, right, to take a pass catcher. And I think Kyle Pitts is better than Mike Williams. But, like, then 3 years later, when they lost, they were picking in the top 10, and they had to take Justin Herbert and move on from Phillip Rivers. And I think that's going to be the situation that the Falcons, if they don't get it right next year and all these things don't happen for them, they're going to be in that same situation. And then we're just basically putting all our hopes on hoping that we find Justin Herbert and he's good, and we don't find Daniel Jones and or whatever the case may be. And, like, it's
that's
like,
what I've been saying since last offseason. They're making a really big gamble on hoping that they hit right and that they can, like, coach people up. And that is a very, very hard gamble to do, especially with the quarterback position.
That's what I was saying. Like, when they passed on the quarterback, it was Arthur Smith betting on himself.
And he's failing.
And
he is
so
down.
Far,
he's down $100K.
Not look great. Like, maybe it turns around next year, but, like, it's hard to beat. Like, I know I have this reputation for being negative and pessimistic all the time, but, like, I think when you see the situation as it unfolds, like, it's not a situation that you can feel great about, feeling like, oh, it's all going to go right. Maybe it does, but, like, right now, based off what we've seen, it doesn't look good for the Falcons. But, hope springs eternal, as they say.
You gotta hope.
So real quick, you made a comment. So you said that you think that Kyle Pitts is better than Mike Evans.
No, Mike Williams.
Mike Williams. Okay, I was about to say.
Yeah.
Mike
Williams.
that was another talk that we had. I was trying to figure out with Jalen, like, hey, kind of what's the ceiling and floor for Kyle Pitts if he reaches his potential. And he gave me a couple of names, and I had to start doing some YouTube. I'm like, let me look around. I'm like, I hope so, but I don't know. Some of these cats were a little different when they came out.
Yeah, these were like quick options. I was like, his ceiling is like Megatron. And I was like,
he's not gonna be Megatron.
That's what I was like feeling. That's what I was like feeling. Like, that's if everything perfectly goes right. Then I was like, he's probably gonna end up more like Mike Evans than like Megatron. But that was like, I don't know, because he has a weird like projection pattern.
Yeah, Mike Evans is more realistic.
Oh, I hope so.
That's if he's a wide receiver. I think if he's a tight end, he'll be Darren Waller.
Okay.
And that's not like bad, obviously, because Darren Waller is really good, but like that's disappointing.
He is, because that's disappointing. They're getting these guys out the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds, and they're making these guys stars. And again, I think we're at where we're at, but it's just like when you say like, oh, Darren Waller, it's like, well, we could have found a Darren Waller. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know those guys don't fall off trees, but they're there. That's why you have scouting department. You know what I'm saying?
Well, in defense of Kyle Pitts, Darren Waller, it took him 5 years to be Darren Waller.
Yeah.
Like, I think Kyle Pitts can get there in like 1 or 2 years. And then he'll be 22 playing like Darren Waller was at, I guess, 27 or whatever Darren Waller was. And so you're going to get like 10 years of that from Kyle Pitts as opposed to like 5 years from that from the Raiders. So it's like, even though getting Darren Waller may not sound as sexy as you want it to be, because you want Kyle Pitts to be, Kyle Pitts. You want that to be the new standard or whatever. But like, if he's 10 years of Darren Waller is not a terrible place to be, is what I'll say.
That's very good. It's just, God, 4th overall pick. Ah.
I mean, shoot, give me. I mean, you say that with Darren Waller, thinking like, hey, what about Travis Kelce? You know, I know I'm being very anti-Kyle Pitts right now. But it's like we picked the latest drafted guy. We keep going up. Like, yeah, you got this other guy. You got Greg Kittle. There's other guys out here making plays. But again,
I back Austin Hooper.
And I've said this before. I was wrong. I was wrong about Austin Hooper thing. Like I was like, oh yeah, Hayden Hurst can be just as. I was one of those guys. Flame me up. It is what it is. But looking back, it's like, yep, that guy was
Hooper is so much better. Hooper is so much better.
He wasn't the most explosive guy. He wasn't the fastest guy. But I mean, they had that rapport, and that meant something. Like you're moving the chains consistently. Yeah, it means something. So that's why it's just like you said, that gamble. It's just it ain't.
It's frustrating.
Making my head hurt a little bit, especially seeing all these mocks saying like, "Oh yeah, the Falcons are going to take a quarterback." It's like, no.
If they take a quarterback this draft, I will firmly be out on this.
They're taking a quarterback. They're not going to take one in round 1. They're taking it in like
if they take unless they use like the Patriots pick, because it's going to be like in end of the second round because the Patriots are good. Like, then I will be out on this regime because they completely will be. Because only quarterbacks I have seen so far, I've watched like 6 of them in this draft, who I would even be willing to take is Malik Willis, and he's raw as all hell. And like I guess Desmond Ridder, and I'm not even high on him. I don't really like him, but that's it. Everybody else, I'm just like, they'll be good backups or they'll be like low end starters, but like, yeah, that's who Desmond Ridder, this quarterback from Cincinnati. I'm like, they'll be okay, but like, I'm not looking for okay when I'm taking a quarterback. Like, I'm not looking for a bridge guy. If I want that, I'll just go in free agency.
They're going to use the pick that they got in the Julio trade on a quarterback, and that guy's just going to ride the bench for 4 years.
Oh no, we still
4 years.
Mm-hmm. Because he's gonna suck.
Because he's
bad.
We'll sit here and we'll draft him this year, and in the preseason he'll do some things, and we're like, yeah, I think he's actually going to be pretty good. We'll convince ourselves, as we always do, that like, oh, he's got something to him, and then the next year the Falcons will pick him in the top 10, and they'll take another quarterback, and that will be the guy, and then the guy who we just drafted will just basically just be his backup, basically.
Because I am firmly along the line of the regression, because they've won every single one of their games they've won has been by 1 score, except for the Jaguars game where it's technically by 2 because they won 29-20, but like every other game has literally been 1 score games, and generally when that happens in the NFL, you will get the opposite of that, because it happened with the Falcons last year. They were like 2-9 in 1 score games last year, and they could have won all those games, and then it just the luck reversed. I expect it to reverse again, and they might win like 4 games because the schedule's gonna be harder because they decided to win 7 or 8 games this year.
I'm just secretly hoping that the pick that they get from Julio trade, they could just completely waste that pick, so I can just
I do too.
I do about all the people that were saying Julio is trash and it was a great trade for the Falcons and all these various things.
Yeah, it's one of those selfish things.
Okay,
yeah,
I get it. Okay, I get it now. I was like, why?
Yeah. It's not like it has nothing to do with the Falcons. It has everything to do with the fan base that was trying to shit on Julio.
That's the latest narrative that I've seen. Is like, oh yeah, we fleeced the Titans and we got these picks for Julio. I'm like, yo, like
the offense is trash because we don't have Julio.
Exactly.
So I'm glad the second round pick
and they took all his salary that we can't even use because we have like 10 people on the roster next year. So like,
we're still paying him the same amount that we would be paying him next year if we waited to get rid of him. We didn't dump his contract. They terrible.
Didn't do anything.
And they did. Like, we got a second round pick. So now the trade off is so we can be a bottom 5 offense, and we got a second round pick. So better hope that second round pick turns out to be a good player.
That's what I'm saying. They just have this assumption that we made the
right decision.
Yeah. Again, people will talk themselves into anything if you give them enough time. Like,
Look, hold on. Speaking of wide receivers, real quick, is there any way for us to get rid of Ridley's contract if he never comes back to football?
You can trade his contract.
I'm pretty sure There's got to be some kind of like retirement.
if he
clause or something.
retires, I mean, is that what you're asking? Like, if he just
Yeah,
decides
like
he
if he
doesn't want
just
to play
retires
football?
completely, like
Yeah,
how would that
there's a way
impact
you can
us?
get you can get that money back.
Okay. Okay, cool. Because a lot of people were like tripping on a TL about it. And I was like, y'all know what y'all talking about, and I don't either, but I know
I
y'all are wrong.
I
And
like
whatever y'all are saying.
people be pointing me to stuff like, oh, this person says they're really done playing in Atlanta, and I'm like, I watched the video and I'm like, that person didn't say that. So like, where are you getting that from? So I don't know where it's all coming from. So you guys tell me, because there's parts of Falcons Twitter that I don't venture into. They're just dark,
Listen,
horrible places, and I just stay away
That's
from that.
Breeze's. That's Breeze's area.
Nah,
Him and Josh's area.
nah,
That's him
man.
and Josh's area.
Look, I block all those people. I block Falcons fans like every other day. It's disgusting.
I'm the one that gets blocked, so I don't know. They be having tweet conversations. I just be saying you cannot view these tweets. I'm like, ah, shit.
So again, real quick, I don't know how much time you have, but back to Dion Jones. The narrative with him again, he's not had a great season. And watching the game this past weekend, he did make some plays. He looked lackluster at times, but a lot of people were on the whole run Dion Jones out of town narrative. And I know you said this on your podcast, Aaron, talking about like, hey, I don't know what the fans expect. Replacing these players with other, newer, lower tier players is going to change anything. Like, yeah, I get the gripes from Dion Jones, but I mean, he was out there making plays. Like, I feel like getting rid of talented players and bring in kind of unknown talented players isn't kind of the greatest thing to do. Like, he has tools, you know what I'm saying? He might be injured when what's going on with him, where he's being a little ginger with tackling people, but I feel like he's demonstrated a skill set that can be used even if on a rotational basis, or you know what I'm saying? But like, I don't see the reason of trying to run off good players. Kind of with like Russell Gage, kind of an example. I mean, he's had his issues. He's fumbled. He gets hit all crazy, like, but he's shown that he can make plays. Not saying break the bank for these guys, but the idea is to keep what little talent we have on the roster, not just say like, oh, let's get Arthur Smith guys in here and everything will be okay. Like, build around what we have, we can afford it, and then move forward. So, kind of your thoughts on Dion Jones, really quickly, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, I talked a little bit about him on Locked On Falcons today, and basically, someone asked me about, can we trade Dion Jones, and I was like, yeah, you can trade Dion Jones. You're not going to get a good pick for a back, or maybe you can get the Jets to give you like a 4th round pick or something like that. But the reason you're getting rid of Dion Jones at this point is kind of a salary dump. You gotta cut salary in some places. He's making like $20 million next year, and he's just not worth $20 million. And like, I hear you, because like Michael Walker, like people are like, oh, we should play Michael Walker, and like Michael Walker's fine, but he's not better than Dion Jones. And like, you can't be like, oh, this team lacks talent, but we should be starting Michael Walker. Like that's not gonna that's not gonna move the needle. Like, he's fine. Like, he's perfectly capable of being a competent NFL starter, but like, he's like the equivalent of Matt Hennessy. Like, he's perfectly okay. Like, he's not gonna do much to help you. He's just keeping the spot warm. Like, like, that's kind of what he is. So like, I think with Dion Jones, you just, at this point, like, the contract that he has is not worth paying him. So that's really, at least for me, why you're getting rid of him. And the inconsistency that, like, I think because you're going into the offseason, you got to make a choice: either pay Dion Jones $20 million or and let Foye Oluokun go, or bring back Foye Oluokun, but you need the money, and so you kind of have to dump Dion Jones and get whatever you can get. And truth be told, you're probably not going to be able to get a better player, unless you use I don't know, like a 1st round pick on the linebacker or something like that. But like, that's kind of an L that you just might have to take if you basically are going to sit here and say, like, well, we'll just get better in the secondary, we'll get better up front, and we'll be able to live with that for a year until we can figure that out down the road. So you just kind of punt it. So that's my thoughts on kind of Dion Jones.
I think they don't have, but the whole, like, even with Grady Jarrett, like, as much as we all on here love Grady Jarrett, it might be around the time where they're going to have to make a tough decision with him, because like, I keep like bringing it up. Like they don't have like I've seen like Ned and a whole bunch of people saying like they can make money, but like only way they can make money is if they move some of their only good players. Because like as it stands right now, they only have like 30 people on under contract next season. Like that's not obviously not include like draft picks or like anybody like on rookie UDFA deals or whatever. But if you're gathering your roster with 6 round picks and UDFAs and stuff because you have like no money, then like what is the point of even like keeping those guys on the roster? At least try to get something for them. Like
Yeah.
they're in a really bad spot because like even if they like, I would love to keep Grady for his entire tenure, but if I was him, I've said before, if I was Grady, and I know this team isn't doing shit, I'm like I'm not siding with y'all unless you're giving me like Aaron Donald money. I I'm not signing with y'all because like you're just gonna be wasting my time. I'm not gonna get any stats. I'm not gonna get any extra incentives for my contract. I'm not gonna win anything. I'm just here to play football and like that's cool. We're making a lot of money, but like we don't know what Grady wants to do. I'm pretty sure he wants to win. So they're in a
Yeah.
very bad spot, especially with the whole Matt Ryan thing still looming, and it will be looming for the next 2 or 3 seasons.
I mean, for me, like what they do with Grady's contract to me is kind of going to tell you where this team's head's at in terms of um, where they are in their process. Because if they're like we're not rebuilding, we can get this team into playoff contention within 2 years, then you pay Grady Jarrett and you're going to give him Aaron Donald money because the market for him is going to be like 22 million dollars a year because that's what Leonard Williams got last year, and Grady's better than Leonard Williams.
Very
And so you're going to bet on paying him all that money, bet that this year is a down year because they don't have enough talent around them. I mean, we want to talk about talent conversation. We need to be talking about Grady Jarrett not having enough talent around him more so than Matt Ryan.
facts.
But so you do that and you basically say we're going to get like 3 or 4 more peak years of Grady Jarrett, and all that time we're going to be able to add players around him and we're going to get this defense good, and he's going to be a key part of a good defense in like 2 or 3 years, right? That's one way to go about it. And I don't think anybody's going to complain about that because I think we all want Grady to be here. But at the same time, like if you're like, well, it's still going to take a couple years to get this defense right, we need money to spend on other spots on the team, and this defense is still going to be bad. We're just going to be paying up Grady Jarrett a lot of money and wasting that money because the defense is going to be trash around him. Then you kind of have to sit here and trade him. If you're like really in a rebuild, like that's kind of what you got to do. You can't really go out there and pay these guys money like we did under Dimitrov because they thought they were a Super Bowl team. They thought, let's keep the band together in 2017 and 2018 and pay Jake and pay Grady and pay Ryan and pay Trufant and Freeman and Julio because we're going to win a Super Bowl with this team. And if you're not in that mode that we're a couple years away from winning a Super Bowl, then it doesn't make a lot of sense to be paying all these guys big money. So if that's the case, then you kind of have to like, look, we're just going to have to gut the roster a little bit and get our cap situation right so that in a year or two we'll have money to spend and we can go all in, I guess, maybe in 2022, 2023 or 2024 or whatever, when we have money to spend to get this team in a playoff spot where probably at that point in time Arthur Smith will be on the hot seat or whatever, because I don't really know what they're going to do. So I think it's going to tell us a lot about where their head is at, if they're in rebuild mode or they're in reload mode.
If they decide to trade everybody because they start a rebuild this year instead of the year before, I am going to have my hair on fire and I will be a menace because that would be the stupidest thing ever. Because one, unless you're like it's a quick turnaround kind of rebuild thing where like you get super fucking lucky, which the Falcons never do. So I don't know why they would be trying to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Your coach and your GM are both out of a job because they failed to do what they were told to do. And then you're going into another regime, and they're probably going to want to do the same thing because you didn't want to do what you were supposed to do the first year.
and this is the endless loop with the number one pick.
This happens every single time because for real, that pick right there was that told you either it was either going to be the best pick or it was going to cost everybody their jobs. That was their pick. That was their pick that they banked their entire regime on.
They bet on themselves. That's what
they're
did.
Losing.
Yeah, and
drastically.
That's what it's. We're gonna be talking about that pick forever. Like people think, well, it'll go away. It's like no. This is why everybody was obsessed with what the Falcons do in the draft. It's not they picked out
a lot.
No one cares anymore. Like it's gonna be talked about forever. The only way that it goes away is if the Falcons win. That's it. That's the only thing. Like no one complains when a team wins except for Jalen, right? So
and that's only this year. Every other year, I've been like, I hope they win. It's just this year. I'm just like, because last year I'd be pissed if they lost. I'd be like, fuck. But now I'm just like, no, because of what they did in the offseason, it makes no sense for them to try to win this year. Besides trying to get some kind of goodwill. And all that goodwill could be gone if you win 2 games next year. It's not gonna matter.
It's a tough spot to be. But it's great if you have to produce daily content.
Absolutely. I'm sure that you're just laughing it up.
Interesting things to talk about.
It's just especially if I know we all know they're gonna take a quarterback this year. It is what it is. I've resigned myself. That's why I started looking at quarterbacks, and I was just like, these guys suck. But it is what it is. If it will always be if Justin Fields even somewhat resembles a high-end starter, top 10-ish quarterback, then it will be the wrong pick every year, every time. Mac Jones already looks like he would have been a better pick, and I'm not even that high on Mac Jones. It's bad.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I guess bothers me. I don't want to go in circles with this, but it's kind of typically when you get a new regime, hey, you want to draft your guy. And again, maybe they had reservations about Justin Fields, but I feel like Justin Fields could do the things that we would want, I guess, skill-wise, talent-wise, potential-wise. And then, again, just turn around and then draft a lesser quarterback, unless you think that Kyle Pitts can elevate somebody else that we draft due to his greatness or whatever. Just throw the Pitts and you'll be all right. So we get to where we got to go. But maybe he thinks because he had Ryan Tannehill, he's like, hey, well, we made it work with him along with, Derrick Henry back there carrying the load for our team, then I can make it work with whoever. And that also that narrative, hey, Arthur Smith needs to get his Derrick Henry, which I get, but anybody would do great with Derrick Henry. If that makes sense. So I don't see why you would have to look for a coach that needs hey, I need this specific play. I need my Derrick Henry to be successful. You're kind of pigeonholing yourself already.
Derrick Henry is literally just it's like the Julio Jones and Hall of Fame level talent where it's really hard to ruin them. You just throw them on the field and tell them to go play football and they'll do something with it. I don't know why people keep bringing that up.
To be fair, Mike Mularkey screwed that up. He had Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry was not good in Mike Mularkey, but
that's also why he hasn't had a job ever.
Coaching matters. Coaching and play calling makes a huge difference. Is the theme that we're kind of circling around.
I don't know if you were in here, but we were coaching on offense matters a whole lot more. I've been saying this I think I said it in the DM. The coaching on offense matters a lot more on offense than defense.
Defense is there's 4 plays to call. It's
literally people.
Cover 4. That's it.
People are literally people are always oh, why are this team playing prevent or why is this team doing this? And I'm just there's 5 total plays you could call, but maybe 2 nuances between 2 people.
Yeah, it's cover 1 rat, cover 3 robber. That's it. You slight variations on the same 5 play calls. That's it.
It's literally not X cross Y Z. There's one thing you could do.
There was an article that SI wrote last year when DQ was here, and they basically broke down the Falcons' defensive play calls, and they basically listed in that article all the play calls that the Falcons had, and they had 7 play calls on defense, and that was it. And if you read that article, you'd be like, oh, the Falcons only have 7 play calls. That's weird or whatever. That's no, that's how everybody is. It's just the Falcons Dean Pease is more like, I have like the same play call. Maybe he has 9. I don't know. But like he switches them up because he disguises his coverage. So he looks like it's in this play call, but I'm switching it to that one. Like, scheme is so overrated on defense.
Yeah.
It always has been and always will be. Like at one point, it's just go make a play on defense. Like be an athlete. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot of dumb stuff. A lot of people don't know what they're talking about a lot of the time, and that's fair.
You know what I'm saying? That's crazy.
But and that's fair. But like, please, just like at least if you're gonna know what you're talking about, don't get mad when people try to tell you what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's another day in the life as a Falcons fan. It's very dark and dreary, but one day we will
Wonderful.
be great. I guess we'll see. But
yeah, it's gonna be great.
It'll be 7 years.
It was funny the other night when the Bears were playing. What was that, Monday or Tuesday or whatever that was, and everybody was like, "Oh man, Matt Nagy's trash and the Bears are trash." And I'm like if you're putting Arthur Smith on the coaching spectrum, and one end is Andy Reid and one end is Matt Nagy, where do you think Arthur Smith fits?
He is 100%, maybe a half a step over Matt Nagy.
So like,
not kidding.
When people are like, when Falcon fans are like trashing Matt Nagy, I'm like, yeah, but did we just kind of hire the next Matt Nagy? Again, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I'm just sitting there saying, like, based off what we've seen so far, like, it feels like we kind of did. But hopefully, he gets in the lab and starts cooking this offseason, and he comes out and, I'm getting dunked on every day. And people are like, oh, you remember when people were saying Arthur Smith was trash? Look at this top 5 offense or whatever.
I hope so, because I win that way.
Please happen.
Yeah, I look forward to that day. Yeah, I really do. I really do.
People just assume that I'm over talking shit about like the Falcons and stuff because I want them to be bad. Like, no, I want them to be good. I don't want them to be a flash in the pan good. I want them to be like legitimately good. I don't want them to suck for most of my life, man. Like I'm about to be 23 and the closest they've done is choke a Super Bowl. Like I need something.
Wow. Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. Like again, I'm being optimistic, man. I hope Arthur Smith gets it together. I hope he learns from his mistakes and kind of what you guys were saying as far as like some of the decisions that he makes in the offseason or him and Fontenot make will kind of tell us a lot. And if they're looking kind of shaky, I'm like, hey, man, I don't know, dog. I don't know. Kind of like the whole thing with the whole running tosses and short yardage. Like if you kind of keep doing like running your head into the wall with these decisions, it's like, I don't know, dog. I don't know. It is what it is, but got to do better than that. Got to do better than that. Whether it works or not, just that decision as a whole is just kind of like, all right, bro. It is what it is, man.
You'd be like, I don't know what's going on with this guy, man. He has a very good opportunity in the Saints game to prove that he's worth some shit. Because as the Falcon motto goes, they could suck all year, but like those random games at the end of the year where they kind of need to lose for seeding or something, they will play their best ball. So like, yeah, even in the Super Bowl season, they were kind of bad like on defense all year, and then magically decided to turn it up the last 4 weeks of the season. So like, we'll see. Like I always hope like the coach, because I don't like switching coaches, I don't like switching regimes, I don't like doing all that stuff because it's more harmful than it is helpful half the time. So I'm like, I hope for everybody's sake that Arthur Smith is what everybody says he is, and he ends up being a coach of the year candidate. But just know, if he's not, I'll be here.
I'm the same way, Jalen. I'm the same way. I'm like, oh, you guys want to talk about the thing in 2022 that we were talking about in 2021? Oh, you want to talk?
Oh, now you want to say it, huh?
Now you want to talk about it. Okay, cool.
It's crazy how that works. And it always works that way. People, it's always like I say something like this is why I always like I don't even bring it up receipts anymore because I'm right so often compared to like Falcons Twitter. It's like I don't even be like bringing up receipts. I'm just like I've been saying this for like 3 seasons now, and nobody will listen to me. And every time I either get blocked, I think I'm more blocked than like anybody in here because of the shit that I've been saying, and I've been right about every single one.
I find a random person that has blocked me every day. I'm like,
That's
oh,
fair.
I didn't even know you existed. Okay, cool. I guess.
I have 2 accounts, and is I have like maybe like 600. Like I've been blocked like 200 times on like both my accounts. So it's very weird. People just don't want to hear the truth.
Yeah,
They
I
can't
mean, look,
accept the truth.
I say the same thing. I say the same thing, and I know it comes off as arrogant, but I'm just like, oh, like I say a thing, and people are like, oh, whatever, Aaron, and then you just wait, wait,
We'll
and
come
then
back.
everybody else is gonna start saying the same thing. I'm like, oh, now you guys want to talk about this? Okay, cool.
I
Whatever.
told y'all. I love saying that.
Like I told Gift that Shanahan was a good coach and all this.
Hey. That's still to be determined.
Nah. Okay, I've been meaning to ask you this question. I guess I'm not going to ask Josh the question because I already know what his answer is going to be. If Kyle Shanahan was the coach, like if he after the Super Bowl, let's say he ended up being the head coach instead of Dan Quinn, how would you have felt?
The same.
So wouldn't have mattered what? Just the same
No,
iron.
because
Just hate.
I said, okay, I have to find that tweet. When we got Kyle Shanahan, right? When they said that he was going to be our OC, I tweeted because I was living in the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area at the time. I said, if we go to the Super Bowl, it's going to be his fault why we lose it. I said it. I tweeted it. I swear to God, I have to find it. So it's team fuck him forever.
Oh wow.
And
Thanks.
then all that shit with Roddy when he was like, it's me or Roddy. Like, come on. How many other if he's a head coach, he's gonna be worse. He did that as the OC. He tried to whip his little Vienna sausage out and be like, me or Roddy.
Wowzers.
Like, what the fuck? And so imagine him being an OC and then he's gonna be a fucking terrorist, just being a fucking terrorist as a head coach, then an OC. Like, come on, fuck him. He can go to hell. And it's on site, bitch. Come to Atlanta and then I'm beating your motherfucking ass.
All right.
Made me
as
lose
we,
the goddamn Super Bowl. I wanted my ring, bitch.
So this Christian Value podcast has gone down the toilet very,
Nah,
very
because
quickly.
it's fuck him.
So
Y'all want to make me mad tonight, huh? Nah, bruh. Fuck you. I hope you see this. You can pull up on me. I send you my goddamn address. I'm beating your ass, bitch.
okay.
You
So
lucky the Braves won something. Because I was tired of being a loser.
Hashtag chop on, man.
yeah, you don't have to be a loser, man. You could, whatever.
I mean, I'm a Spurs fan, so I got 5 rings, and then I'm a Tar Heels fan, basketball. But as far as Georgia goes, I wanted a ring. And you took that away from me, you son of a bitch. All you had to do was run the ball one more goddamn time and let Matt Bryant do what he had to do. So, I hate you. I fucking hate you.
So, yes, Aaron, we appreciate you coming through again. As always, sorry for the lateness, but life happens. The Omarion's popping. Let the people know if they haven't subscribed to your illustrious podcast where they can find you at.
Check me out, Locked On Falcons, whatever podcast platform, now on YouTube. If you haven't checked it out, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking about the Falcons and their talent level every single day. And of course on Twitter, if you like the snarky tweets about the Falcons, Falcon Fans is the place to find me there. And I think there's going to be a column up tomorrow at the Falcoholic on this Bills game and how the offensive line needs to step up this week. And looking forward to seeing them get their butts kicked.
The score prediction. Could we didn't even talk about the Bills game? Score, because we all know how that's gonna go. I'm gonna keep that real right now.
Okay.
They have like a 3% chance of winning. So
it's gonna snow, so the Bills probably won't get a 30 burger on them. So it'll be like 27-17. That's what I'm hoping for.
You're saying they're gonna put up 17 points?
That's my hope.
What he said.
I'm gonna keep the dream alive that they're gonna be actually competitive for like a half in this game.
I'm saying it's gonna be like, I don't know. I'm gonna say it's gonna be 31-10.
We gonna lose, man. It don't matter. I don't gamble. So that's not a big deal to me.
Look, we're going for the point differential aspect because they
I
have
guess.
such a bad
Point.
point differential and they're like almost 500. It's
Yeah. I
hilarious.
saw that. But God bless,
53-7.
Oh my
God-
god.
God bless the miracle worker Arthur Smith for getting us there with this terrible team. So he's a miracle worker. So next year he should also work miracles and getting us to the playoffs per Falcons Twitter. But let's see. We barely don't score a lot of touchdowns.
He's really thinking about it too.
I'll say, are we counting on the Bills to make mistakes? Because that's kind of the only way I see this.
They're
Let us know.
prone. Josh Allen.
Yeah, but when you can run all over the Falcons, why risk?
He's really thinking. Just put out a
30,
number.
30 to 13, man. Something like that. Something like
Okay.
so. But yeah. Oh yeah, but shout out to Aaron for going on YouTube, man. Like, it's tempting to watch it the night before, but I listened to it on my commute to work, so I'm like, I just gotta save it for the next day. So I don't watch it on YouTube. I do listen to it faithfully on my commute. So that's my first listen. So
Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you guys joining up with us. Again, it'll be another week. Again, maybe the Falcons surprise us. Probably won't, but kind of just want to auto sim to next season and see what this is looking like. So again, appreciate everybody checking this out. Subscribe to YouTube, listen to Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcast from. This is the Urban Nation Report, the unofficial fish podcast, Fox Twitter. We are out. Peace.